So it appears that everyone has made some sort of a New Year's resolution for Enlisted. Essentially, what this is essentially people going on to YouTube and saying what I want for the new year for Enlisted and what should happen in 2025 for Enlisted to succeed and succeed better. And without further ado, in today's video, I'm going to be offering my New Year's resolution, or things that Enlisted should do to get more members, or what I personally want to see happening to Enlisted. So without further ado, let's get started with this video, because this is going to be a longer video. Of course, this video has been made possible for the friends at Discord. If you haven't liked, subscribed, or joined the Discord, highly suggest that you do, because that's where all the crazy and fun stuff is happening at the same time. And let's get started. Starting with number 1, and that is to fix the uniforms. So for those who don't know, Enlisted's uniforms are, well, not historically accurate at all, and that is putting it at an understatement. Some historical uniforms are horrific, and some historical uniforms are beyond the strength of historical accuracy. What I'm trying to say is that if you look at some of the uniforms, i.e. some of the German uniforms and most of the American uniforms, the winter ones, of course, and some of the other uniforms from other countries, they don't really make sense. The best ones we have, I think, are the Soviet ones, which is a stretch. But from what I've seen, most of the uniforms in Enlisted are pretty bad. I'm asking Enlisted to, number 1, fix the uniforms for Enlisted, and that is the thing that I think they should do first, because it's probably one of the most easiest, and if Enlisted doesn't do it, it is not the end of the world, and we're gonna move up from this point. Number 2, I would like to see more maps, and that is simple, because as of right now, Enlisted doesn't have that many maps, and the maps that we are playing and fighting over and over again are pretty much the exact same maps we've been doing again, and again. Meaning that most of the maps you played are essentially the maps that you play again, and over. What I'm trying to say is that Enlisted should give us more maps, and thus more variety and more fun. Some of the maps I personally suggest is Italy, or to be exact, Monte Cassino, Gustav Line area, and of course, Market Garden, but that is essentially Normandy 2.0. I would also suggest other maps in the Pacific, such as Okinawa, if not Iwo Jima, so that's that. And speaking of places like Italy, let's move on to factions. For those who haven't been watching me for a long time, you know where I'm gonna get. Number 1, I do expect the British, and essentially the Italian faction. I do think that is the best additions, and that is where you can add even more maps, such as Greece, the early year wars in the desert, i.e. Operation Compass, Battle Axe, and etc. And while we're at it, please add stuff like having the Japanese fight against the Soviets. That is the thing that I think most of the Enlisted player base can agree on, and essentially what's going to happen is that Enlisted, on their part, it's going to be much easier to do than just, well, let's just say, do a new faction, because you already have the Japanese and the Soviet faction. All you need to do is to get a map for them, and it's fine. And finally, moving on, you also have the new factions. When I say new, I mean like completely new. These could potentially be the French, the Finns, and of course, why not the Chinese? So that's that. Moving on, let's move on to the biggest take that I have for 2025, and that is moving on to the Cold War. For those who've watched my last video, you already know what's going on, but for those who haven't, it is this simple. As of right now, Enlisted is as follows. We currently are stuck in essentially World War II, and although a lot of people will be saying, please do not let's go to the Cold War, and you think that the Cold War should be in a different game, I can almost guarantee you that if we implement the Cold War right, and I say completely correct, then we should be fine, i.e. put the Cold War in its own separate faction, and put World War II in its own separate tier. If that works, then I'm pretty sure most of the people who are rightly complaining about balancing issues, which, let's be honest, it's one of the biggest factors if we go into the Cold War, are gonna be much better. As of right now, the Enlisted balancing situation is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If Enlisted is gonna add a Cold War, I suggest the 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 to be Cold War stuff. So that's that. And without further ado, that is my personal on what Enlisted should do next. Comment in the comment section down below of what do you think Enlisted should do, because as of right now, the Enlisted situation is becoming better and better. That's it, without further ado, I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.